my name is Roxanne, the Tiny Taster, and today's recipe is Nankhatai Biscuit. Now these biscuits are such a popular snack within the Parsi community. We love eating them, especially with our little cup of choy. That's how we say it. We don't say chai, we say choy. But we like to dip our biscuit in our tea and snack on them. We like to munch on them at any time. They're lovely. They're actually supposed to have originated in Surat at an Irani bakery, but they're like now a household name and you get them all over the country. Really easy to make and doesn't take much time. You will find some biscuits that have a little bit of garnish with nuts, sometimes almonds or pistachio, and some biscuits are absolutely plain. I tried to garnish mine, but they eventually burnt out, so I'm thinking you want to add the garnish a little bit once they've baked a little bit, or you can skip it completely. I'm going to leave all these tips and tricks along in the video, but also in the detailed written blog post. I do that always. There's a link in the description down below. Make sure to check that out for proper measurements and everything. I really hope you enjoy this recipe. If you do, as always, give it a big fat like, share it with all your friends, and subscribe to this channel. Lots of fun recipes. So without any further ado, let's get cooking. For this recipe, you start by mixing all-purpose flour or maida, some besan or chickpea flour along with semolina or suji or rava, and to that you will add in all your sugar. I've used icing sugar just because it's easier. Add in a pinch of salt and some baking soda, and then of course your main flavoring agent, which is cardamom powder. That's the main flavor, but I like to add a little bit of nutmeg as well. I just grate some into that, and then mix this all together and create a small little well for your wet ingredient. To this mixture, you will add in some melted ghee or clarified butter. You could use cow ghee or buffalo ghee, either work. Some recipes tend to use melted butter, but that's not really the traditional method. So I would suggest sticking to ghee. And then with the help of a spoon or spatula, just mix it all together and it'll sort of become this kind of crumbly texture, almost like a shortbread cookie would when you add in cold butter to this. And then once it's mixed and you've got this crumbly mixture, use your hands and bring it all together to form a nice dough. Now this took a little bit of time, so I would say please be patient, and I'm trying to get this together to form a nice dough, but it just wasn't coming together. So I would say if that happens to you, add a little bit more ghee, which is what I did in the second half of this recipe, which I'll get to. But for now, I just kept mixing it till at least the dough came together, even if it wasn't this perfectly round dough, but everything came together and it wasn't crumbly. And then I would put this in the fridge for about 15 minutes. Because of the heat and the humidity and there's so much ghee, it tends to melt and be really sticky. You need the dough to be just a little bit harder to be more manageable. So at this stage, pop it in the fridge for 15 minutes and let it rest. After about 10 to 15 minutes, the dough has hardened slightly, and this helps it become a little bit more manageable to roll it out into smaller balls. So to my baking tray, I add a piece of parchment paper because otherwise this is going to stick. You can grease your tray, but I would recommend parchment paper. It's much better, or baking paper, whatever you call it. And then just start forming small little round balls like this. Traditionally, recipes would create a little dent in the center, but like I said, my dough just wasn't holding all that well. So I said, forget that. I'm not going to create the dent because it would crack the entire cookie. So just roll these into small balls and hopefully they're all the same size. But even if they're not, it's really okay. This is a rustic recipe. We're not cooking for the queen or anything like that. Just roll them out into balls and place them on your baking sheet with parchment paper. Now, remember I said that you make a little dent in the center. That's actually to garnish it with a little bit of pistachio slivers or almond slivers. I've used almonds, but it wasn't really happening for me. So I just placed my sliced almonds on top gently on each cookie ball. In hindsight, these actually burnt, so I just don't think it makes all that much of a difference. I've seen Nankhatai biscuits even without any garnish. So the choice is really yours, or if you like, you could bake these for half the time and then pull them out and then add the garnish on top and then pop it back in the oven. The choice is really yours, but I would say skip it. It's absolutely fine. I popped these in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius for about 15 minutes, and this is what it looked like. The cookies weren't burnt, but they tend to crack a little and expand, and that's really that typical Nankhatai style biscuit. Now I had another batch of dough. I didn't use the whole batch for the first round of cookies. This was the rest of the dough that was remaining, and I was finding it that it's just too crumbly. It wasn't coming together. So this is where I added more ghee to this, just to give it just a stickier texture and help me roll them out. Of course, once I added the ghee, I put it back in the fridge for a little bit. Because of the heat, it just needs to harden. I don't know if I was successful or not, but I do think that you need to add more ghee. So I'm going to put the exact amount in my instructions in my blog post. It'll be in the description box. Please check that out before you make this. So again, this is round 2. I am rolling out my Nankhatai biscuits and I'm placing it on my baking sheet with parchment paper. Again, I tried to make the little dents in the center. This was slightly better in some. It wasn't cracking, so obviously the addition of ghee helped, but it still wasn't perfect. I don't know if it's the temperature or what, but I just gave up at this point and I just rolled them out completely into normal balls and placed them on my baking sheet. Once again, I tried to decorate the top with sliced almond slivers. Some were successful, some I managed to put a little dent in the middle, as you can see, so that's where the garnish sits nicely. And again, I popped these in the oven for about 15 minutes. Some recipes say 18 minutes, some say 10 minutes. I think 15 is the sweet spot, but please check with your oven. Maybe bake it for 10 minutes and then see how well it turns out. And then this is what came out. As you can see, these cookies spread a little bit more. They kind of had a slightly more golden touch to it, and of course the garnish burnt again. So like I said, I think it's completely pointless, but oh my god, believe me when I tell you, these were delicious. The entire family could not get enough of these. So this recipe is perfect in the sense that it tastes fantastic. They might not be the most aesthetic looking cookies, but I don't care. Skip the garnish, enjoy these cookies. They're so good. This one batch gave me about 15 cookies, I think. Yeah, 15 to maybe 18 cookies depending on the size of it, and they were amazing. Perfect to dunk in your chai. So I really hope you enjoy this. Don't forget to check the detailed blog post. I'll leave it in the description box. As I mentioned before, please read it once for all the ingredients and measurements. If you like this video, please do give it a big fat like or a thumbs up. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think, and of course subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys very, very soon.